I am in love with minimizing clutter. And I think that one of the best ways or best places to minimize this clutter is actually inside your own mind. And so to do that, I've constructed a series of 3 steps that help me liberate what's going on in my head and putting it into the external world where I can use it as a resource to go back to. Actually helps me remember a lot more than I used to, which is quite ironic because now I don't need to remember it. But I'm still going to go ahead and show you what this process is and what it's been like for me so that you can have some of this success as well. So perfect. So you should see my screen. And the 3 tools that I'm going to show you today are Trello, Notion, and the good old iCloud-based notepad. So Trello, I really do organize a lot of my business pieces within. So you can see here, I have some of my courses that I'm doing. I have the actual journeys. I have my objectives. I have operations. I have my social media marketing strategy. But my bread and butter on this entire thing is my resource board. So this is probably one of the less organized spaces that I own, but this is literally my brain as compartmentalized as I can possibly make it. So as I'm learning and growing and, I see these different tools that are being promoted that can be used for the business, or I'm hearing certain questions coming up from specific webinars that I'm attending, or I have these really great ideas based off of certain, places that I've been to or community groups I've been part of that I want to grow. Well, my resource board is almost like a ticketing system to myself where it's like, okay, I have all these ideas and all these things that I want to do. I'm going to put it into this back-end resource board, and I'll be able to go into it later and pick up on it to create new, fresh content to add value to my users, whether that be customers, learners, or anybody else. So you can see here, I have tons of stuff that is being put on my Trello all the time. And let's say I want to make a course that, I'm going to put on YouTube. Maybe I'm going to come onto my Trello board and see, okay, well, what are some of the common things that people have been asking for or talking about? And then I'll go and look into my relevant areas. And maybe I will see something like, oh, here I have a whole thing of questions. I've been to a few places. What are some of the common questions people have? And how can my course help answer those questions? So I don't need to remember every piece of information that's passing me in the day or every question that's being asked, so long as I can take note of it and organize it in a way that I can easily get back to it later. And that's what my Trello board does for me. In addition to my Trello board, I'm also using Notion. Now, everybody has their different way of using Notion, and I'm definitely not the most savvy in it, I would say. I'm not making those crazy Notion templates or even using them really. All I'm doing is tracking all of the articles that I read. I track the books that I read as well. I track the podcasts that I'm listening to, the videos I watch, the courses I'm taking. And the whole goal here is to see, one, how long does it take me to do certain things? So over here, I have the created time, and I also have a completion time. So if I'm creating it one day and completing it 10 days later, well, then it takes me 10 days to read an article. And then the same thing is true for my book list. If it's going to take me, day 1, I put it on, and then 165 days later, it's completed. Well, it takes me 165 days to read a book. And then you create your averages as you add in more detail. This helps me plan my days in the sense that I know how long it takes me to read something. I know how long it takes me to do certain things. And then I can also use it beyond just, managing my own capacity. I could see here that I have the score, which can tell me, okay, how good was this content? And if the content isn't that good, is there an opportunity here for me to recreate this piece to make it better? Facilitating my content infrastructure and process. If the content is really good, then maybe there's something I want to pull from this piece as a quote. Maybe there's, a connection that I want to make with the writer. So there's tons of things that I can determine just based off of scoring this article. Then I also added the type. And the type is important too, because especially in the beginning when I was starting my business, I didn't know exactly what areas I should be talking to. So I didn't have much of an infrastructure. It was more like just throwing content out as it appeased me and as I thought it fit. So over time, after reading and, digesting the information that I was taking in, it became more and more clear to see where I put my attention, which also means that's where I have the most expertise and can talk about better. So these are two of the ways that I started to really manage and offload all of the activity that was happening in my mind. But the third and possibly best way that I have so far is definitely via my notes. I have notes for all kinds of things, some in less capacity than others. But over here, I would say books under my notes is probably the most important one that I have. And this is something that I have just started. So you can see here, I started this in January. I'm only 2 months in, a handful of books in already, which is great. Some things that snuck in, this shouldn't be here. This is my list of things I need to do. But anyways, I think because I'm stuck on my pinned. But anyways, I have my books in here, and the whole thing here is that I actually put in all the notes that I find interesting as I'm going along in my books. And this helps me remember the key pieces of information when I'm reading something, and also helps me create new content. So when I'm inspired, I feel like there's more of a flow in what I'm doing. And so I'll read my books, I get full of inspiration, I have all my notes ready, I open up, a Google Doc, I start writing, and then I'm going. I have really a great, nice article, but I know that I want to talk to a point that maybe Ed Catmull said in Creativity Inc. And so maybe I can just go right into this and, look for that quote that I was trying to get to. Oh, maybe it was about, over here under emotion in chapter 2, where I want to say, for all the care you put into artistry, visual polish doesn't matter if you're not getting the story right. So maybe that's the quote that I wanted to add. I'm talking about how much story matters in your content, that I think that this is a great pull quote for it. So in 2 seconds, I can easily find it because I've already categorized all my notes. And inside those categories, I can find the key sources. And inside those sources, I can find those key pieces of information with the simple search tool. So between these 3 areas, I have found a way that I feel really helped me take charge of, I would say, content creation, and also minimizing the overwhelm in having a business altogether, because I can clearly see, or I have clear places where I put certain things. So much like in your house, you know where things go in your kitchen, you know what goes in your living room, what goes in your bathroom or your bedroom. Well, I know what goes in my notes. I know what goes in my Trello, and I know what goes inside of my Notion. And if you could structure yourself up like this too, where okay, I need to liberate my mind. There's too much overflow happening right now. What tools can I use to help that process? And then you can set yourself up and then be consistent in the way that you use things. Well, then you'll see that there's a big optimization happening in the way that you work, and a great also advancement in how much you can retain. So I hope this helps. If it does, don't forget to subscribe, and you can leave any comments in the comment section, whether that be a feedback or a question, and I will get back to it as soon as possible. Cheers, and I'll see you guys soon.